Close your eyes for a moment and envision yourself nestled comfortably within the ranks of a wealthy family. Yes, indeed, imagine a reality where your bank balance doesn't just hold millions, but rather, it holds billions. Now ask yourself, what would you do if you were presented with this scenario and thus had a seemingly infinite number of financial possibilities? Would you opt for world cruises, amass a collection of exotic cars, or perhaps dive headfirst into philanthropy, funding innovations and research for a better tomorrow? Maybe you'd consider investments in burgeoning tech startups or in safe, reliable blue-chip stocks. The choices are myriad, and each comes with its own set of pros and cons. One investment avenue, though, has stood the test of time and consistently charmed the wealthy: art. Now, this is not just because they enjoy a beautifully crafted painting or a delicately sculpted statue, but there's something more profound at play. The wealthy have a somewhat obsessive relationship with fine art, and the reasons go beyond simple aesthetics or the thrill of collecting rare pieces. In this episode of Old Money Luxury, we'll explore the compelling, high-stakes world of art from the eyes of those in the world's wealthiest families. We'll delve into the tactics and strategies they meticulously employ, not just to safeguard their vast fortunes, but to grow them as well. First, let's turn back the hands of time a bit and recognize that art, as a form of wealth storage, is as old as the Tuscan hills. In the golden age of the Renaissance, the patronage system saw wealthy families throughout the whole of Europe sponsoring artists that we still admit to this day. Imagine the grand city of Florence during the Renaissance, around the 14th to 17th century. Amidst its cobblestone streets, bustling markets and towering cathedrals stood the proud and formidable Medici family. Now, these chaps weren't just lovers of luxury, they were clever, cunning financiers who found a crafty way to retain and multiply their wealth. How? Through art. Consider this: the Medici's bankrolled geniuses like Michelangelo and Da Vinci, commissioning timeless masterpieces from them. These creations were not just expressions of beauty, they were also tangible, long-lasting representations of their vast wealth. And trust me, we're not talking about a few florins here and there. Let's consider Leonardo da Vinci's Annunciation, for instance. Commissioned by the Medici family in the late 15th century, this glorious work of art would have cost them several hundred florins. A substantial sum at the time, equivalent to perhaps tens of thousands of dollars today. However, art being art, the value of such masterpieces does not just hold, it escalates immensely. In the 21st century, if the Medicis still held Annunciation, it would likely be worth in excess of hundreds of millions of dollars, given the astronomical sums we've seen for other works by Da Vinci, such as Salvator Mundi, that went for an eye-watering $437 million, as we'll show you in a second. And there's the rub. The Medicis were not merely commissioning art, they were amassing solid assets that over time appreciated in value while showcasing their economic prowess and cultural sophistication. It was a long game, a systematic investment strategy of the highest order, as shrewd as it was aesthetically pleasing. Thus, let's take a Black Mirror-style memory jump to the here and now and run the tally on the global art market. It's got a staggering total worth of $64.1 billion in 2022, according to the big wigs at Art Basel and UBS. The offspring of these same ultra-wealthy families still strut their stuff in the global art corridors, their hefty wallets making more than just a bulge. Let's talk specifics and look at, say, Dmitry Rybolovev, the Russian billionaire, one of the wealthiest men alive, a tycoon who has had his fingers in many pies, from fertilizers to football clubs. Known for his titanic fortune and a love for art that matches it, Rybolovev once owned Da Vinci's Salvator Mundi, a depiction of Christ as savior of the world. This masterpiece was and remains one of the most expensive paintings ever sold. In 2017, he sold it for a brain-bending $537 million in 2023 dollars to none other than the Saudis, who've got more than just a little change to spare. Moving on, we have David Geffen, the American business magnate, producer, and philanthropist. A man who practically personifies success in the entertainment industry, Geffen once owned Willem de Kooning's Interchange. This masterpiece of abstract expressionism, a riotous explosion of color and form, went under the hammer in a private sale. The buyer? Kenneth C. Griffin, hedge fund honcho, and one of the wealthiest people on the planet. The price? A cool, casual $370 million 2023 US dollars. Thus, art, ladies and gentlemen, has always been and continues to be the grand stage where the affluent flaunt their fortunes, their taste and, in a way, their power. But how exactly does the modern art market function? Where do these wealthy families meet to procure and barter for their next big showpiece? Let's answer those questions for you now, for we have so much more to tell you, my friend. To navigate the swirling currents of the art market, it's crucial to comprehend its unique functioning. This isn't your average stock market. It's a complex ecosystem of high-powered auctions, esteemed galleries, and bustling art fairs, each playing its role in a grand marketplace where art and commerce seamlessly intermingle. At auctions, pieces of art, some dating back centuries, others freshly painted, can fetch prices that skyrocket into the millions or even billions at the raise of a paddle. Christie's, Sotheby's, Bonhams, these auction houses are the playgrounds of the rich, the arenas where old money elites joust for the best pieces. Consider, for example, the illustrious sale of Van Gogh's Irises in 1987. The extraordinary tableau, bursting with colors as vivid as the artist's own tumultuous life, hammered in at an eye-watering $138.8 million at Sotheby's, New York. Snapped up by none other than Alan Bond, the son of art aficionado Joan Whitney Payson, the painting made quite the splash in the glitzy waters of the art world. Then there was the enigmatic 8 Elvises by the hand of pop art pioneer Andy Warhol. Sold in a rather discreet private sale, the iconic piece was rumored to have been acquired by the state of Qatar for a cool $135.9 million, courtesy of art dealer Philippe Segalot. Both these transactions exemplify the high-stakes dance of money and taste, power and privilege that twirls incessantly in the sparkling ballroom of the art market. And let's face it, this dance, my friends, is a flamboyant tango reserved only for the audaciously affluent. Galleries, on the other hand, serve as the middlemen, the gatekeepers of the art world. They scout for talent, curate shows, and build relationships with collectors. They're the tastemakers, setting trends and often the price tags. Take the Gagosian Gallery, a glitzy empire founded by Larry Gagosian. With its outposts in New York, London, Paris, and Hong Kong, among other cities, this powerhouse is famed for representing some of the world's top artists and boasts an unrivaled influence on contemporary art pricing and trends. And, lest we forget, White Cube, a London-based titan renowned for its stable of highly sought-after artists and its game-changing role in promoting the YBA's Young British Artists during the 90s. You'll find its sleek, minimalistic spaces bustling with the well-heeled art crowd, each hoping to snap up the latest addition to their personal collections. Art fairs, then, are the melting pots. Gatherings like Art Basel or the Frieze Art Fair provide a platform where galleries, collectors, and artists converge. It's here that new contacts are made, deals are brokered, and fortunes are spent. But it's vital to understand that art as an asset class is a different beast altogether. Its value can be incredibly volatile, influenced by factors as diverse as critical acclaim, public perception, and the personal whims of collectors. So, what are the tactics that the old money elite employ to ensure their billions continue to swell? One stratagem that tops the list is the age-old principle of buying low, selling high. It may sound simple, but in the volatile art market, timing is everything. The elite have honed this skill, watching market trends and artist reputations like hawks, ready to swoop in when a piece is undervalued, only to sell when its price peaks. A prime example of the buying low, selling high strategy can be seen in the exploits of the Dupuy family, renowned art collectors. They purchased Warrior by Jean-Michel Basquiat during a market slump in 2002 for a modest sum, only to sell it in 2021 for an impressive $41.9 million, speaking to their patience and art market acumen. And they don't go it alone. These art moguls employ a cadre of seasoned advisors and consultants. Consider the Walton family, heirs to the Walmart fortune. They employ a team of esteemed art advisors, such as Alice Walton's personal consultant, John Wilmerding. These experts, with their intimate knowledge of the art market's ebbs and flows, provide crucial counsel on which artists are on the rise, which pieces to acquire, and when to sell. They're not just advisors, they're the trusted lieutenants in the art world's battlefield. Then there's portfolio diversification. It's not all Monets and Van Goghs. The elite ensure they have a balanced mix of art periods, styles, and artists. They might invest in an up-and-coming contemporary artist one day and acquire a centuries-old masterpiece the next. This strategy hedges against market fluctuations and ensures that their art collection remains a robust, diversified asset. In a nutshell, the old money elite don't just buy art. They strategize, maneuver, and influence. They play the art market like a grand, complex symphony, ensuring that the music of their wealth continues to resonate. Next, allow me to lift the curtain on the resplendent yet enigmatic world of museums and foundations, the stealthy cogs of the gigantic dollar-churning apparatus that is the art industry. These institutions, far from being mere havens of cultural and historical preservation, are rather adept at turning the screws on the value of their cherished assets, and in the process, elevating the stature of those high-flying elites associated with them. With this in mind, let's talk about our old money art aficionados, the elites with deep pockets. They have a curious affection for setting up foundations or flinging a slice of their wealth at museums. But why, you might ask? Well, they're shrewdly killing two birds with one stone. First up, they're pocketing a hefty tax cut. In a multitude of countries, the law turns a blind eye when you donate an artwork to a museum or non-profit. Let's say you're in the highest tax bracket, around 37% in the US. Imagine you're a billionaire and you've purchased a masterpiece for $10 million. By donating it to a museum, you could potentially save a whopping $3.7 million on your tax bill. Not bad for a bit of charitable giving, eh? But the benefits don't stop there. By making such high-profile contributions, they are cementing their roles as society's influencers, shaping our cultural vistas and etching their names into the annals of art history. There's a kind of enchantment about having artwork showcased in a public institution. It not only confers a sense of immortality to the piece, but it also preserves and often inflates its value. The backstory or provenance of an artwork can make its price tag go through the roof. Let's suppose you have an artwork that has previously been a part of a prestigious museum collection. That's like having the Queen's seal of approval, a golden ticket that can propel its market value to staggering heights. Imagine, if you will, buying a Picasso for $10 million. After it's been exhibited in the Museum of Modern Art, its value could double, triple, or even quadruple within a decade. Indeed, it's not unheard of for art pieces to appreciate by 500% or more, particularly if they're linked to a major institution. That's a potential return on investment that could leave Wall Street green with envy. In this world of art and money, everything is not just as it appears on the canvas. There's a much bigger picture at play. Allow me to put some meat on the bone with a few eye-opening examples. The Nahmad family, kings of banking and foreign exchange markets, turned art aficionados with a collection rumored to hold over 4,500 works. Their business acumen served them well, snapping up less popular works in bulk at auctions, patiently waiting for their value to balloon. Clever strategy, I'd say. Another name you can't miss in this conversation is Wallis Annenberg, the heiress to a publishing empire. Her love for art is palpable, not just in her eclectic personal collection of significant works, but also in the incredible strides she's made in fostering the art community through her philanthropic work. The Annenberg Foundation, under her stewardship, has pumped funds into a myriad of initiatives, from museums and art education programs to grants for individual artists and exhibitions. That's a case of someone looking beyond personal financial gains to the broader societal enrichment that art provides. And then we have the formidable Rockefeller family, not just oil magnates, but heavyweights in the art market too. They didn't put all their eggs in one basket, diversifying their collection across different periods and cultures. Abby Aldrich Rockefeller's crowning achievement has to be the establishment of New York's Museum of Modern Art, MoMA, a touchstone in the sphere of modern and contemporary art. So, next time you're strolling through an art gallery, you might want to read through the names of which wealthy family collections the art comes from, and then spare a thought for the financial gymnastics that are silently at work behind those beautiful masterpieces. Have you ever ventured into the shadowy world of trust funds, those opaque bastions of wealth that have long safeguarded the affluence of the old money elite? Picture a treasure chest, secretly stashed away, holding not just traditional riches, but an array of assets from stocks and bonds to real estate. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on this enigmatic institution. We're cracking open the vault to discover the mechanics of trust funds and how they secure the future of old money offspring. Because, as Oscar Wilde once quipped, the old believe everything, the middle-aged suspect everything, and the young know everything. True to this, the progeny of old money families inherit not just wealth, but the knowledge of how to preserve and grow it through generations. On today's episode of Old Money Luxury, we shall delve deeper into the intricacies of this financial structure. Prepare for a revealing journey into the secretive universe of trust funds, unearthing how they continue to fortify the enduring legacy of the world's most affluent dynasties. So, imagine yourself stepping into a time machine, dialing back the centuries to the era of ancient Rome. As we wind back the clock, the genesis of trust funds comes into focus, emerging from the birth of fideikommissum. This ingenious legal instrument was masterfully designed as a conduit for the transfer of wealth and property upon an individual's departure from this mortal coil. Now, the Roman law in that age set a labyrinthine trap. Assets could only be transferred to specific classes of individuals, including the unmarried, childless couples, slaves, and foreigners, upon one's demise. To circumvent this maze, fideikommissum was employed as a secret passageway, facilitating a hushed transfer of assets, often through undocumented, whispered agreements. Let's now leap forward in time to the Middle Ages in England and behold the transformation of trust funds into a construct known as the use. Imagine yourself observing a medieval church, knights outfitted for a crusade and feudal landowners, all discovering the versatility of these trust structures. Visualize a bustling medieval church using trusts to lawfully revel in the fruits of the land. And I'm sure you can imagine a knight, armor shining and sword at the ready, sealing an agreement with a designated trustee before he rides off to the Holy Land. The trust becomes a pact of faith, a bond between comrades. Ponder on the feudal landowners, bypassing exorbitant fees linked to their tenure through the clever application of trusts. And let's not overlook their vital role in the artful evasion of taxes. Picture the shrewd landowners, their wealth reflected in the vast stretches of land, using these trusts to sidestep the hefty taxes associated with inheriting lands or sealing marital unions. This seemingly obscure mechanism of trust was, in fact, a potent tool that shaped the dynamics of wealth and power, leaving a lasting impact that resonates to this day. Now, the transformation of trust funds into a modern entity took place during the period of the Industrial Revolution. This era marked a major shift in the British economy, fostering economic growth and introducing structural changes. These alterations increased monetization and market engagement, making tax collection more streamlined and enabling the government to strengthen its fiscal capacity and fund public goods. Fast-forwarding to the 20th and 21st centuries, trust funds have gained recognition as a common instrument used by families with old money to safeguard their wealth for future generations. The trust funds have diversified to encompass a wide range of assets, including cash, stocks, bonds, real estate, artwork, among other assets, which serve to generate income for the beneficiaries at predetermined intervals or ages. This strategic usage of trust funds by affluent families has effectively provided them with control over their assets, ensuring their enduring financial security. Venturing into the gilded world of a trust fund baby, we must proceed with caution. The term, typically a badge for those who've lucked into familial fortunes via trust funds, can paint an overly broad picture. Remember, we're dealing with a kaleidoscope of individuals. That said, we can certainly shine a light on some common threads that embroider their lifestyles and outlooks. At the heart of this coveted existence commonly throbs a pulsating vein of financial security. This robust monetary spine often serves up a delicious platter of emotional freedom and independence, throwing open the gates to a life where pursuing passions and interests isn't bogged down by the grim grind of breadwinning. It's a life where choice is an everyday indulgence, not an occasional treat. However, the life of a trust fund baby isn't always a parade of privilege. Some find themselves teetering on a precipice, crushed under the colossal weight of expectations to uphold their family's glittering legacy. Taking any monumental risks feels akin to playing with a loaded weapon, with their family's fortune in the line of fire. Take, for example, an individual we'll call Alex. Imagine Alex, shaken and wide-eyed at the daunting responsibility of managing his investment account. The mere thought of making a critical mistake that could lead to their family's financial ruin filled him with a terror that consumed their every waking moment. In 2008, When financial markets crashed like a house of cards, Alex held his breath and his nerve, making the decision not to meddle with their investments. As it turned out, this seemingly passive strategy proved wise in the face of such turbulence. Yet this pressure to protect inherited wealth can often prove too much to bear. In some tragic cases, these trust fund babies buckle under the strain and spiral into a vortex of self-destruction. An alarming number are drawn into the treacherous undertow of substance abuse, their lives becoming a dangerous dance with alcohol or worse. They often seek solace in these vices, an attempt to numb the burden they carry, but end up ensnared in addiction's lethal grip. Romantic impropriety, that's what we'll call it to keep in the good graces of our YouTube overlords, can become a dark alley for others, with the world watching their every misstep. The glare of the public eye and the constant scrutiny magnifies their downfall, turning their lives into cautionary tales splashed across the front pages. The golden aura of privilege tarnishes with scandal, casting a somber shadow over the brilliance of their inherited fortunes. Conversely, there is indeed a flip side to this coin. Submerged in their plush comfort, some may sprout a sense of entitlement or privilege, losing touch with the harsh realities faced by less fortunate souls. But let's shatter the myth that all trust fund babies are cut from the same cloth. There's a breed of them who not only recognize their privilege but actively deploy their wealth to paint strokes of social good, committing to philanthropy and community betterment. In the realm of education and careers, their lives often continue to glitter. Unrestricted access to the crème de la crème of academia often sets them on a trajectory towards illustrious careers or entrepreneurial adventures. Unshackled from fiscal anxieties, they are free to map their career paths, aligning them with personal passions over societal status. Their social orbits, unsurprisingly, often reflect their financial stratosphere, drawing in those of similar affluence. Thus, their social galaxy teems with fellow trust fund offspring, or those springing from wealthy roots. Work attitudes among this crowd are a mixed bag. Some may treat work with disdain, a necessary evil they need not endure, while others actively seek employment, not for the bottom line but for a sense of purpose, accomplishment, or a genuine desire to contribute to society's fabric. Indeed, the life of a trust fund baby is as diverse and captivating as it is sometimes enviable. Moving forward, to fully get to grips with the enigma that is trust funds, we must dare to plunge into the nitty-gritty of their anatomy and the smorgasbord of trust fund varieties out there, each with its unique investment playbook. At the heart of a trust fund's DNA are three pivotal characters: the grantor, the trustee, and the beneficiary. The grantor, known variously as the settler or trust maker, is the godfather of the trust fund. They are the trailblazers, willingly relinquishing assets to the trust's vault and dictating its rules of engagement. This omnipotent puppeteer pulls the strings, shaping the destiny of the trust's assets and their ultimate dispersal. Next, enter the trustee, the stalwart guardian of the trust's treasure trove. Tasked with navigating the trust's assets in sync with the grantor's master plan, they must be unwavering in their pursuit of the beneficiary's best interests, guiding the trust's fortunes with a seasoned hand and an eagle eye. And the final piece of the trust fund puzzle is the beneficiary, the lucky soul or entity set to benefit from the trust's meticulous stewardship. The grantor's wishes, immortalized in the trust document, spell out the windfall the beneficiary stands to reap. Of course, trust funds come in all shapes and sizes, each with its own idiosyncrasies and objectives. The roster is as varied as it is vast, with living trusts, testamentary trusts, revocable and irrevocable trusts, asset protection trusts, and many others among the contenders. Now, the grantor's pick of the bunch reflects their estate planning ambitions and necessities, and designing investment strategies for trust funds is no mean feat. It's a high-wire act of amplifying the trust's asset pool, whilst carefully attending to the trust's unique needs and demands. The trustee must devise an investment game plan that resonates with the trust's blueprint and aspirations, weighing up the risks, time frame, and the beneficiary's needs. The tools of the trade often include diversification, asset allocation, and astute risk management. Thus, the complex web of trust fund management and allocation isn't as simple as dumping a bunch of money into an account once grandma or grandpa passed to the other side. And the storyline of Wes Anderson's classic, Grand Budapest Hotel is often truer to life than we might think. Additionally, trust funds wield substantial clout as strategic instruments in financial planning, acting as stalwart guardians in the realm of estate planning and wealth preservation. Their allure lies in their myriad advantages, from tax efficiencies to astute risk management, making them the siren call for those individuals and families seeking a fortress for their assets and a compass for their future. Their prowess in estate planning is legendary, offering a conduit for individuals to hand over assets to beneficiaries, respecting their stipulations to a T. By entrusting assets to the vault of a trust, grantors ensure their hard-earned wealth dances to their tune, offering financial succor to beneficiaries across the generational divide. The trust's cornucopia can cradle a variety of assets, spanning the gamut from investments and cash to real estate and other prized possessions. The tax efficiencies of trust funds are manifold, influenced by their configuration. Irrevocable trusts, for example, can make yearly contributions free from the shackles of gift taxes, with their assets enjoying a protective shield from estate taxes. Trust beneficiaries typically feel the taxman's touch on the distributions they draw from the trust's earnings, while the trust itself may shoulder its income taxes. Trust funds can also turn the tide on estate taxes and probate fees, potentially reducing or wiping them out altogether. As well, the strategic chess game of risk management is crucial in trust funds, as it plots out potential pitfalls linked with trusts, including legal, financial, and operational landmines. By instating stringent oversight, employing diversification, and rolling out asset protection stratagems, these hazards can be minimized, safeguarding the trust's assets. Now, as we think about legendary old money families and their respective trusts, 3 family trust fund tales surface, illustrating how the wealthiest dynasties have masterfully wielded these financial instruments to safeguard their legacies and build for tomorrow. First up, the DuPont family, American industrial royalty and long-standing proponents of trust funds. In 1935, Alfred I DuPont brought the Alfred I DuPont Testamentary Trust into the world, a philanthropic endeavor with the sole beneficiary being the Nemours Foundation. At its genesis, the trust boasted assets worth a hefty $40 million. Flash forward to 2015, and that figure had ballooned to a staggering $5 billion. Like an heirloom passed down through the generations, the DuPonts have used their trust funds to manage their considerable wealth with finesse, ensuring its continual growth and preservation. Next on our tour of trust fund titans, we encounter the Mars family. Shrouded in secrecy and chocolate-fueled success, this confectionery dynasty has harnessed trust funds to orchestrate their wealth and cultivate a privacy as elusive as their famed Mars bars. Although details of their trust funds remain under wraps, the Mars Family Foundation serves as a beacon of their philanthropic endeavors. This charitable powerhouse deploys its formidable resources, connections, and acumen to champion a raft of charities and initiatives, fueling their sustainability and triumph. The trust funds of the Mars family have enabled them to conduct their wealth management with discretion, all while sowing seeds of charity in their wake. Last, but certainly not least, we turn our gaze to the British royal family, whose wealth management and succession planning come steeped in trust fund strategy, especially within the hallowed halls of the Crown Estate. This grand portfolio, boasting an array of regal landmarks, marine holdings, and foreshore lands, is the jewel in the monarchy's financial crown. Despite the monarch's symbolic ownership of the Crown Estate, the actual asset stewardship falls to the estate's chair and board. Trust funds have emerged as an indispensable aid in managing the royal coffers and smoothing the succession process, ensuring a seamless passing of the financial torch. The old money elite, a phrase redolent with tradition, refers to families that have retained vast wealth across several generations and still manage to maintain it to this very day. This distinguished class is often characterized by a refined ethos, cultivated over time, where opulence is blended with discretion and societal norms are interwoven with historical legacy. These days, as ever, the meeting of the old money elite with the noble art of philanthropy waltzes an intriguing dance that captivates the general public's imagination. This mingling of venerable wealth with charitable endeavors forms a fascinating paradox, marrying the ostentation of affluence with the humility of giving. On one side of this intricate coin lies the altruistic pursuit, the genuine aspiration to help society and uplift the less fortunate. On the flip side lurks a more self-serving strategy, wherein philanthropy becomes a conduit to avoid tax burdens, dictate public policy, and present a squeaky clean public image. This mixture of sincere benevolence with calculated benefit creates a fascinating dynamic that invites both admiration and scrutiny. Thus, in today's video at Old Money Luxury, we'll provide you the goods on exactly what is happening with all this business around philanthropy and old money families, why they do it, how they wield it to their benefit, and at the end, we'll even give you a few step-by-step insights on how to engage in philanthropy, like old money families, as we describe, how the old money elite use philanthropy to preserve their wealth. In the echoing corridors of history, the concept of philanthropy emerges as a radiant symbol of human benevolence, its roots intertwining with the splendor of ancient Greece and Rome. Deriving its essence from the Greek word philanthropia, approximately translated as kindliness, humanity, benevolence, and love to mankind, philanthropy was not merely an act, but a luminous expression of communal strength and solidarity. For example, within the marbled halls of ancient Athens, the Panathenaea festival sparkled like a star in the cultural constellation. This grand convocation, considered the most magnificent festival in the Greek world, celebrated Athena's birth, the city's divine patroness. Wealthy Athenians, in their magnificent togas, would lavish their gold and efforts, crystallizing their commitment to the cultural vibrance and communal well-being. From the pen of this history emerges the figure of Pericles, an Athenian statesman whose philanthropy etched itself in stone through the construction of the Parthenon. Built between 447 and 432 BC, this temple to Athena stands as a silent symphony of collaboration among citizens, slaves, and foreigners, each contributing their skill and each even receiving equal pay, a harmonious relic of their democratic ethos. Rome, with its imperial magnificence, embraced philanthropy with a different, albeit no less compelling fervor. However, Roman philanthropy danced to the rhythm of political ambition, a spectacle designed to enchant the public eye and etch everlasting reputations. In order to enhance public favor, wealthy Romans orchestrated the construction of marvels such as the Theatre of Marcellus and sponsored pulsating chariot races in the Circus Maximus, a colosseum that could embrace 250,000 roaring spectators. Among the pantheon of Roman philanthropists, Gaius Maecenas sparkled, a patron of arts whose generosity nurtured the literary elegance of poets like Virgil and Horace. As humanity moved through the epochs, the arc of philanthropy bent further, reaching into the hallowed realms of early Christianity. The New Testament resonated with exhortations to generosity, with passages such as 2 Corinthians 9, 6-7, saying, "Remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver." Additionally, in Matthew 25, 34-40, Jesus teaches that acts of kindness and charity towards the least fortunate are equivalent to serving him directly. "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Thus, philanthropy, resplendent and multifaceted, over time, wove itself into the fabric of Western civilization. From the misty dawn of ancient times to the cusp of modernity, it stood as a monument to spiritual awakening, public charity, statesmanship, and the subtle art of power projection. In the kaleidoscopic transformations spanning the 15th to 17th centuries, the diorama of power saw a significant migration from the gilded halls of monarchs and nobility to the soot-stained hands of capitalist titans. As the dark clouds of feudalism dispersed, they revealed the emergence of a vibrant merchant class, industrialists and entrepreneurs whose newfound opulence allowed them to orchestrate philanthropic symphonies on a grander scale than ever conceived. Gleaming like jewels in this historical tapestry are figures like the Fuggers of Germany, a banking dynasty whose affluence birthed the Fuggerei, the world's first social housing complex founded in 1516, a lasting legacy of compassion. Likewise, Sir Thomas Gresham, an English merchant whose largesse established Gresham College in 1597, stands as a beacon of enlightenment, offering free public lectures, an innovative generosity that seeded future philanthropic endeavors in education. As the Industrial Revolution's mighty gears turned, they set in motion profound societal metamorphoses, unleashing torrents of private wealth previously shackled by monarchy and hereditary privilege. This dramatic wealth transmutation crystallized into a new form of philanthropy, vibrant with modern sensibilities, as industrial tycoons beheld the labyrinthine complexities arising from rampant urbanization and industrial sprawl. Among the powerful voices resonating through this era, the book How the Other Half Lives by Jacob Riis sang a haunting melody. Published in 1890, Riis's tome wove photography and prose into a searing indictment of poverty's grim visage in New York City's hidden recesses. The book's vivid imagery, stark in its honesty, jolted the conscience of readers, its echoes reaching across oceans and decades into the 20th century, even being mentioned by John Lennon in the lyrics of the Beatles' Glass Onion. Thus, this awakening at the turn of the 20th century stirred the hearts of the opulent, igniting a desire to channel their fortunes into philanthropic conduits aimed at healing the wounds inflicted by the Industrial Revolution's relentless machinery. Emerging from this crucible was George Peabody, an American financier whose name thunders through any historical discussion on the machinery of contemporary charitable endeavors. Dubbed the father of modern philanthropy, Peabody's magnanimity birthed the Peabody Education Fund, a luminous effort to motivate the war-worn minds of the southern United States in the post-Civil War twilight. His initiatives were like seeds, sprouting into the philanthropic ideals that would later inspire the colossi of Carnegie and Rockefeller. John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie, these titans of industry, indeed laid out the blueprint of modern philanthropy. Establishing foundations and trusts, they infused their charitable endeavors with strategic brilliance, crafting long-term solutions to society's gnarled dilemmas. Their maneuvers, elegant in their design, have shaped the contours of the philanthropic landscape we traverse today. In the cloistered halls of the modern old money world, foundations and charity events flourish like resplendent gardens, tended by the hands of the wealthy. These paradigms of giving facilitate a choreographed dance of resources, ensuring their strategic and graceful flow to countless causes. Simultaneously, they allow the affluent to weave a golden thread of societal contribution, preserving their social stature and influence even as they uplift the lives they touch. In the lifestyles of the contemporary old money elite, the practice of philanthropy and charity unfolds in various ways, serving both the greater societal fabric and their own self-interest. Whether for the mitigation of taxable income, the founding of charitable institutions, the safeguarding of wealth, or the cultivation of a public persona, old money families accomplish multiple goals with charity that every one of us should have at least a fundamental grasp on understanding. For example, among the means by which the old money elite employ philanthropy is the act of charitable giving, a strategy that curtails their taxable income. By extending largesse to sanctioned charitable organizations, they avail themselves of deductions, thereby diminishing their fiscal burden, all while ostensibly championing the causes that resonate with their hearts. Many an affluent lineage has laid the cornerstone of charitable foundations to orchestrate their altruistic pursuits. Such establishments allow them to channel funds with strategic precision, endorse diverse causes, and etch an enduring legacy. The legendary Ford Foundation, brought into being by Edsel and Henry Ford II, stands as a symbol of this, with its unwavering commitment to social equity, poverty alleviation, and the elevation of human welfare. Furthermore, philanthropy functions as a bulwark for wealth preservation among old money families. Their investments in charitable ventures serve as a safeguard against the ravages of inflation and economic tempests, while simultaneously sowing the seeds of social capital, forging connections that may redound to their familial and business advantage. Illustrative of this principle in the 20th century were the philanthropic traditions of the Vanderbilt and Astor families, benefactors of educational and cultural institutions, and founders of such esteemed establishments as the New York Public Library. Additionally, the old money elite deploy philanthropy as a brush to paint their public portrait. Through their charitable endeavors, they garner societal goodwill, crafting a legacy imbued with positivity, thereby tempering critique and inspection, especially when their wealth or business ethics face examination. A salient exemplar of this tact is John D. Rockefeller, who in his more contentious epochs embraced philanthropy to stave off public outcries, endowing various causes and creating the Rockefeller Foundation to polish his image and parry censure. Therefore, the modern old money elite employ philanthropy as a multifaceted tool for wealth conservation. Through charitable gifts, foundation formation, wealth insulation, and image enhancement, they extend their influence and affluence, simultaneously enriching the broader world. This nuanced approach to benevolence enables them to strike a balance, retaining their prosperity while bestowing contributions upon the common good. Now, of course, the realm of old money philanthropy also has systematically made its way into the political sphere, molding public policy and ushering in cultural metamorphoses. Naturally, families adorned with a venerable legacy of philanthropy frequently marshal their assets to sculpt the political terrain. Whether through astute lobbying to mold public decrees in harmony with their predilections or the causes they champion, or through endowing think tanks, scholarly institutions, or advocacy collectives to advocate particular policy doctrines, their influence is palpable. Such old money benefactors are often privy to intimate discourse with politicians, an access that can be a fulcrum in furthering their altruistic aspirations. By nurturing bonds with statesmen and policy architects, they assure that their voices resonate in the halls of power, their concerns weighed in the balance of decision-making. However, the gilded touch of philanthropy is not without its detractors. Critics contend that this gamesmanship may serve as a front, whereby the affluent elite fortify their stature and sway, oftentimes overshadowing the plight of the less fortunate. This paradox can engender a landscape where affluence and dominion burgeon, whilst the impoverished remain destitute. Indeed, the discourse surrounding philanthropy's efficacy in confronting societal maladies continues to ebb and flow. While some herald its vital role in assailing issues like environmental concerns, education, and healthcare, others voice that philanthropy, though noble, avoids advocating for systemic overhaul as the more resolute path. Thus, in this dance of influence and altruism, cultural perceptions of the wealthy elite have undergone a subtle transmutation. As the populace's cognizance of these families' sway over governance heightens, skepticism regarding their motivations simmers. And now, with our understanding of the how and why of the old money elite's forays into philanthropy, it's time for us to delve into a topic that may be of some direct benefit to you, regardless of your current income. Acts of charitable giving and setting up your own philanthropic endeavors, when approached with proper care, can field inspiring results that hold the power to shape our world. Now, before we begin, of course, the most old money tactic that you must always use before engaging in your journey is to seek professional, licensed advice in your endeavors. With that said, next, let us turn our attention to the planning stage, the crafting of a strategy to oversee the assets of your foundation or trust. This demands collaboration with financial advisors to design an investment plan that marries the dimensions of risk and return, all while upholding your philanthropic organization's mission and ensuring the enduring success of its charitable pursuits. The best philanthropists stay attuned to the market's heartbeat, perpetually reviewing and adjusting their investment strategy to align with fluctuating conditions and the mutable needs of their organization. In progressing along this path, charitable givers frequently reflect upon the causes that resonate with them, their family, or their business. Building a connection with something that holds personal significance will render their philanthropy to be not only rewarding, but truly impactful. As we've mentioned, it's crucial that you do not hesitate to immerse yourself in research, frequent relevant conventions, and cultivate relationships with industry experts. Such endeavors will deepen your understanding of the issues and lead you to partners who share your vision. Additionally, as you sculpt your philanthropic journey, ponder your desired level of involvement. Whether providing broad support, sponsoring specific ventures, or joining forces with others to spark fresh initiatives, bear in mind the delicate equilibrium between guiding and impeding the autonomy of those you assist. Lastly, let us not forget, philanthropy extends beyond mere image enhancement. At its best, it is a conduit for genuine societal transformation. Maintain transparency about your motivations and unfailingly prioritize the welfare of the communities and causes you champion. Without a doubt, when you hear phrases like, "they keep the bulk of their wealth in a private Swiss bank account," or "the most important funds are hidden in a vault in Switzerland," you immediately get images of secret international dealings between the world's clandestine financiers, intergovernmental espionage, and maybe a splash of Hollywood magic. However, the stone-cold truth is that Swiss banking as an institution is a very real, non-Tinseltown reality that holds billions, or more likely trillions, in hidden assets and priceless artifacts from history for the world's wealthiest and most elite patrons. In today's video at Old Money Luxury, we'll pull back the curtain on the extremely well-known yet highly secretive world of Swiss banking. First, we'll cover how it all started back in the 1700s to help finance Europe's wars and hide the billions made in profit from conflict. Then we'll detail exactly why the world's old money elite would want to hide their most precious items and financial earnings in this majestic alpine country. Finally, we'll bring you up to speed on the future of Swiss accounts and private banking overall, as Switzerland has been presented with a host of new global rival locations for stashing the secret wealth of the world's richest, as we describe, the hidden world of Swiss banking. If you've clicked on this video, the first question I'm sure you've been itching to ask is, why have the world's elite chosen Switzerland for their secret banking? Indeed, Switzerland's storied political neutrality serves as the keystone in its allure as a financial refuge. The nation's relatively unwavering political climate, further buttressed by a global reputation for diplomatic even-handedness, magnetizes high-net-worth individuals and corporations in search of a sanctuary for their financial reserves. This gravitational pull was palpable in the financial markets as recently as last February, as the Swiss franc appreciated 5% against the euro within 2 weeks following Russia's military attack on Ukraine. But the history of Swiss banking confidentiality dates back to the early 18th century and finds its roots in safeguarding the affluent coffers of European financial elites. The enigma of why Switzerland emerged as the epicenter for this clandestine service, rather than other nations, is indeed a subject of curiosity. Geographically and politically well situated amid the Alps, the country offered defensible terrain and a decentralized governance model that proved conducive to complex banking operations. Starting things off, in 1713, the Great Council of Geneva prohibited divulging any financial information concerning Europe's high society, a milestone in Swiss financial discretion. This council thus emerged with a charter focused on the economic vitality of its jurisdiction, positioning it well to enact stringent confidentiality regulations. The 18th century stage also saw Switzerland serve as a facilitator of monumental transactions across the European continent. During the War of Spanish Succession, for instance, the country's neutrality allowed France and the Grand Alliance to conduct secure and confidential financial settlements. Thus, in the theatre of mergers and acquisitions, Swiss banks proved instrumental in fusing commercial empires, particularly in the New World. Arch-enemies on political and military battlefields, Britain and France nonetheless found Swiss financial institutions to be neutral arbitrators, holding their capital in escrow and assisting in the consummation of their commercial deals. And when it came to sovereign debt, Switzerland was the issuer of choice. Nations like Austria, perennially embattled with the Ottoman Empire, benefited from floating bonds in Swiss francs, attracted by the currency's stability and Switzerland's impartial status. By the 1780s, Swiss banks pioneered deposit insurance, adding another layer to their profile as secure repositories for wealth. This groundbreaking initiative ameliorated investor concerns about financial risks, reinforcing the country as the preferred destination for capital. Furthermore, in the aftermath of the Napoleonic Wars, the 1815 Congress of Vienna actually institutionalized Switzerland's neutrality, thus magnetizing a torrent of capital to its coffers. Even back then, major European powers saw in Switzerland a valuable buffer state, and its diplomatic aloofness, compounded by its geographic insularity, rendered it an obvious choice for formalized neutrality. This enhanced the nation's credentials as a repository for international assets. However, the truly seismic event that lurched Switzerland into the modern age as the home of secret wealth was the banking law of 1934. This legislative sleight of hand made official what had long been practiced. The non-disclosure of client data became a federal offense. This decree, twinned with a durable currency and a persistent neutral status, stimulated an influx of capital into Swiss private vaults. Quickly thereafter, in the 1940s, the advent of numbered accounts introduced a lasting bedrock principle in global private banking. While World War II saw Swiss banks in controversial affiliations with Axis powers, their luster as private banking centers remained undiminished in the post-war era. Case in point, Wegelin and Company, established in 1741 and Switzerland's oldest private bank, found itself the target of a forceful US government action. In 2013, the institution conceded to aiding affluent Americans in obscuring their incomes in concealed offshore portfolios. Faced with a $74 million penalty, Wegelin ceased operations. And during the tempestuous years of the Cold War, Swiss financial institutions became the vaults of choice for an array of international figures, reinforcing Switzerland's standing as an impervious financial sanctuary. Their unflinching commitment to client confidentiality drew an eclectic clientele ranging from political leaders to organizations desiring unparalleled asset protection. A standout example from this period is former Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos, who is said to have stashed billions in Swiss accounts, later ensnared in legal battles and restitution initiatives. The Swiss vaults also discreetly harbored assets for other global strongmen and political luminaries of the time. Simultaneously, these banks became the repository for the imperiled assets of Holocaust victims, notably European Jews who funneled their resources into Swiss coffers in the 1930s. The post-war years would witness an intensified quest to reclaim dormant accounts, especially those linked to Holocaust victims, sparking a wave of litigation and settlements in the 1990s. Recently, faced with international scrutiny and legal pressures, the Swiss financial landscape has undergone substantial recalibrations. Emblematic of this is the experience of banking giants UBS and Credit Suisse. This spurred Switzerland to unseal account details concerning US taxpayers from 2014, and in the same year, the country adopted the Common Reporting Standard, or CRS, along with 50 other nations, ushering in an era of increased transparency within its vaunted banking sector. Thus, Swiss banking confidentiality, molded by an array of historical benchmarks and occurrences, has continued to adapt and evolve. Of course, the institution has not been without its controversies and ethical dilemmas, yet it remains a bulwark in the financial sphere, its mystique arguably undiminished. All right, so we've established that a specific number of legislative and geopolitical chess moves helped build Switzerland into the ideal choice for the world's elite to stash their cash. However, your next query is likely, why do private citizens and old money families love Swiss banking so much? Therein lies our next investigation. You see, Swiss private banking has long been a lodestone for old money, drawing patrons with its ironclad guarantees of privacy, tailored exclusivity, and currency stability. These potent allurements have continually positioned Switzerland as the go-to sanctuary for affluent individuals seeking both asset protection and growth. First, privacy remains the bedrock of Swiss private banking. While the aforementioned banking law of 1934 is well known, other legislative frameworks fortify this heritage. The 2018 Swiss Financial Services Act further tightens the circle of confidentiality by imposing stringent regulations on how financial institutions can share client data with foreign entities. Both of these acts particularly benefit the ultra-rich, reinforcing layers of impenetrable discretion around their financial affairs. The other pillar of Swiss banking opulence is its exclusivity, targeting a clientele of high net worth individuals. Clients are pampered with an array of personalized services, from private advisories to bespoke asset management and investment planning. All these services are meted out by an elite cadre of Swiss bankers, each a maestro in the symphony of wealth management. However, access to the world's most exclusive and secretive banking services obviously leads to some of society's more unscrupulous characters to avail themselves of Switzerland's services, ushering in a clientele that some of the more morally ambiguous bankers are happy to aid in their pursuit of unending wealth. This darker facet was vividly portrayed in the 2013 film The Wolf of Wall Street, where Leonardo DiCaprio's character, based on the real-life Jordan Belfort, engaged in financial subterfuge to shield ill-gotten wealth. Union Bancaire Privée, or UBP, featured prominently in Belfort's actual escapades. Belfort, who at the time was facing 22 months in prison for his financial crimes, utilized UBP's services to clandestinely transfer cash from the US to Switzerland, going to the extent of physically strapping money to couriers, as shown in the film. In one particularly audacious move, UBP even facilitated the withdrawal of untraceable gold bars valued at over $50 million for 2 US clients, effectively helping Belfort and his cohorts elude the IRS set. Against this backdrop of both grandeur and potential ethical flexibility are the Swiss bank relationship managers. These professionals act as the vanguards and caretakers of individualized financial counsel. They are not mere functionaries in a banking institution, they are essential players in an elaborate dance of fiscal strategy and execution. These experts are invested with the monumental task of deeply comprehending the financial yearnings of their clients. In this capacity, they yield specialized advice, maneuvering investment portfolios with surgical precision. They operate as the nerve center of this rarefied ecosystem, charged with perpetuating a rigorous standard of financial sagacity, and concurrently fostering client relationships that stand the test of time. Banque Pictet and CSA stands as a paragon in this elite world, embodying the peak of Swiss prudence and financial acumen. Operating over a span of more than 2 centuries, this venerable institution has granted admission to its inner sanctum sparingly, elevating a mere 43 individuals to the exalted rank of managing partner in its long and illustrious history. Additionally, the Swiss heritage of airtight confidentiality and individualized service extends even to the realm of physical security, vividly immortalized in other films. For instance, the 1999 movie Entrapment showcased laser-guarded Swiss vaults that only the most skilled could penetrate. Likewise, the 1964 classic Goldfinger featured James Bond foiling a plot to contaminate the United States bullion depository, with the character of Auric Goldfinger having Swiss bank accounts central to his schemes. These cinematic moments are emblematic of how Swiss bank vaults have come to epitomize the very pinnacle of security and discretion. Lastly, in an increasingly volatile global landscape, where economies are prone to shocks from trade wars, actual wars, and unforeseen pandemics, the Swiss franc emerges as a fortress of fiscal steadiness. For high net worth individuals, the virtues of the Swiss franc go beyond its mere stability. Its strength allows for diversification away from riskier assets, providing a counterbalance in a multi-currency portfolio. Overseen by the Swiss National Bank's astute monetary policies, which include rigorous interest rate management and judicious foreign exchange operations, the Swiss franc enjoys a stability that is almost unparalleled on the global stage. Thus, even during periods of international economic tumult, the currency has often defied trends, either holding its ground or even appreciating in value. This resilience is no accident, but the outcome of meticulous planning and a commitment to macroeconomic stability by Swiss authorities. In essence, the Swiss franc acts as a financial stronghold, a place where wealth isn't just stored but also has the potential for growth, all while being insulated from the turbulence that afflicts other currencies and asset classes. However, in a world shifting toward transparency and digitization, Swiss private banking, once the sine qua non of discretion and exclusivity, now faces questions about its modernity. This gilded bastion of old-world banking elegance finds itself confronting regulatory winds, notably the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, and directives from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, more commonly known as the OECD. The Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, a US legislation, mandates Swiss banks to unmask American account holders, essentially dismantling the hallowed veil of secrecy for these clients. Consequently, the impact on American old money families has been palpable. The once unquestioned Swiss stronghold on confidentiality now seems to have developed chinks in its armor. The stigma of potential tax evasion or financial obscurity has somewhat dimmed Switzerland's luster for these storied wealth dynasties. Similarly, OECD guidelines aimed at curbing tax evasion through global cooperation further prod Swiss discretion into the open. These regulations have compelled Swiss banks to be more forthcoming with tax-related data, thereby narrowing the gaps through which the ultra-rich could slip unnoticed. Faced with these challenges, Switzerland finds itself in a rivalry with emergent financial titans like Singapore, Dubai, and Hong Kong. Singapore's meteoric ascent to the third spot on the global financial hierarchy, just behind New York and London, is not a stroke of serendipity, but a concerted state endeavor. With its well-regarded political stability and a focus on fintech innovation, Singapore has transformed itself into a sanctuary for wealthy individuals and family offices. The city-state has also embraced transparency while providing tax-friendly regimes, thereby aligning modern wealth management practices with international regulations. Dubai, on the other hand, has embraced its role as the playground for nouveau riche affluence with gusto. Whereas Switzerland may offer tradition and long-standing expertise, Dubai represents a different allure: extravagance, high yields, and relative regulatory leniency. Its free economic zones offer beneficial tax conditions, and its openness to global capital makes it an attractive alternative. In contrast to the hush-hush environs of Swiss vaults, Dubai's ostentation offers a wholly different, but increasingly sought-after form of financial sanctuary. And amid the evolving landscape of global finance, Hong Kong remains a compelling player, despite its hurdles. Positioned strategically near China's booming economic machine, it offers a rich financial infrastructure and serves as a confluence of Eastern and Western financial philosophies. Yet it is not immune to the questions of privacy and political stability, with its democratic protests garnering worldwide attention. Complicating matters further for Switzerland is its competitors' relentless drive toward financial technology, an arena where Hong Kong, along with Singapore, is striving to be a world leader. Both regions are vigorously wooing fintech startups and positioning themselves as fintech epicenters, a move that makes the traditionally discreet Swiss banks appear a touch anachronistic. Indeed, Switzerland is at a juncture where emerging technologies are significantly influencing its venerable banking sector. Blockchain technology, often touted as the disruptor of modern finance, poses a dual challenge and opportunity. It has the capacity to upend how financial transactions are carried out, diminishing the role of traditional banking intermediaries. But at the same time, Swiss banks have an opportunity to incorporate blockchain to enhance security and transaction efficiency, thereby retaining their cachet among clientele seeking cutting-edge services alongside traditional discretion. Similarly, fintech startups are remapping the topography of financial services. With a focus on streamlining operations and lowering costs, fintech companies employ sophisticated algorithms and machine learning tools to offer an efficient, cost-effective banking experience. Their agility and technological prowess present a stark contrast to Switzerland's grand banking halls and personalized human advice. Here again, Swiss banks must decide how to reconcile their storied traditions with a wave of automation and data analytics that offer convenience and lower costs. Switzerland, then, is at a crossroads. Its traditions of privacy and expert financial management are being tested against a backdrop of increasing transparency and shifting global dynamics. With emergent rivals offering different flavors of financial stability and opulence, Swiss banking's golden halo has arguably begun to flicker. In the 21st century, whenever you hear someone mention the term old money, it's unlikely they're referencing ancient banknotes gathering dust. On the contrary, this is a phenomenon that indeed goes beyond the superficial fortunes made overnight by Silicon Valley whiz kids or Instagram influencers. This kind of wealth has endured, meticulously cultivated and safeguarded through multiple generations. Yet, navigating the waters of old money through years, decades, or better yet, centuries, involves steering through 7 make-or-break stages. Indeed, every single stage plays a crucial role in doing one of two things: fortifying financial stability or ushering in the collapse of a family's economic empire. In today's video at Old Money Luxury, we'll grant you one-of-a-kind access to each of the 7 stages of old money generational wealth, by examining the financial arcs of legendary clans who've achieved the Herculean task of sustaining their prosperity. And then we'll contrast it all with the sagas of many families who've faltered at keeping their coffers filled to their proverbial brims, as we describe. The 7 stages of old money. The first stage, what we'll call the foundational generation, acts as a pivotal moment that determines the family's financial trajectory for years to come. This stage is defined by a patriarch or matriarch creating a groundbreaking venture, or deftly maneuvering through shrewd business deals that not only fill a market void, but also redefine an industry landscape. It's that first member of the family who gets the ball rolling, and in this stage, fortunes are made, and the groundwork for lasting prosperity is laid. For example, the DuPont family is nothing short of an American dynasty, a monumental force that has profoundly shaped the nation's industry and economic vitality. Originating in the early 19th century under the visionary leadership of French-American chemist Éluter-Irénée DuPont, the family initially focused on gunpowder manufacturing. Their ascent, however, was meteoric. Through relentless innovation, savvy diversification, and masterful management, they established an indomitable empire. As of 2020, the family's net worth has soared to an astonishing $16 billion, shared among more than 3,500 living relatives. But their influence extends far beyond sheer financial prowess. They've practically written the economic history of the state of Delaware and played a crucial role in the economic development of the entire East Coast. This is a family that has done more than accumulate wealth. They have become a cornerstone of American capitalism. Contrast this with the unfortunate saga of the DeLorean family. Imagine John DeLorean, an audacious pioneer in the automotive realm, broke away from the pack to launch his own groundbreaking venture in 1975. It wasn't just a car company. It was poised to become an epoch-defining revolution in automotive design and technology. The promise was almost palpable. This was a brand destined not just for profitability, but for an iconic, game-changing status that could have rivaled the most storied names in auto history. But alas, the reality was less kind. Hindered by a perfect storm of factory malfunctions, design imperfections, and legal quagmires, the enterprise spiraled into a financial abyss. Instead of bequeathing a lasting empire of innovation and wealth, John DeLorean left his descendants with a poignant legacy of unfulfilled potential and missed opportunities. Therefore, the foundational generation stage is the linchpin. Get it right, and you're looking at a legacy of enduring affluence, like the DuPonts. Get it wrong, and you risk leaving your progeny with nothing but a cautionary tale, unfortunately like the DeLoreans. Although who doesn't still watch Back to the Future and marvel at those lovely vehicles? However, getting rich is just the opening chapter in the saga of old money. Once the coffers are filled, the next critical stage is establishing a framework of values and virtues that shape the family's character. Actionable principles like hard work, frugality, and philanthropy serve as a moral compass that not only helps preserve wealth, but also garners respect within the community. But failing to instill these principles can set the stage for a rapid decline in fortune and reputation, sometimes as quickly as a single generation. Consider the Rockefeller family. John D. Rockefeller Sr., the patriarch, was a staunch advocate of hard work and thriftiness. The family maintained its unity and sense of purpose through regular reunions aimed at reinforcing these core values. Additionally, John D. Rockefeller basically wrote the Old Money Whispers, while New Money Shouts handbook for his family, and thus the entire country, by instilling the values of quiet success and privacy in his many descendants. Contrast this exemplary focus on values with the cautionary tale of the Frick family. Henry Clay Frick, the formidable American industrialist and key player in U.S. steel, amassed a staggering fortune that seemed unshakable. Yet, what he failed to establish was an ethical and moral compass to guide the family's wealth stewardship. This crucial oversight left his wife and children ill-equipped to sustain the family's financial empire. Lacking a focus on ethical conduct and value setting, they indulged in a lavish lifestyle and squandered opportunities for meaningful investments, causing a slow but irreversible disintegration of the once mighty Frick fortune. Therefore, the second stage in the life cycle of old money serves as a moral litmus test. Families like the Rockefellers, who embed strong values within their DNA, not only protect their wealth, but also elevate their stature. Those who neglect this stage, like the Fricks, find that wealth without values is as unstable as a house built on sand. The third stage in the journey of old money, what we'll call investment in longevity, serves as a defining moment for families intent on preserving their wealth. A family at this stage diversifies its portfolio, investing in sectors that not only grow, but also withstand economic tremors. To cement their social and economic position, these families also forge alliances and relationships that serve to strengthen their status in the high-stakes game of long-term wealth. Think of the Rothschild family, a paragon of this principle. Originating in the late 18th century, their banking empire spread like wildfire across Europe. But they didn't stop there. Their diverse investments in various sectors like finance and real estate ensured that their affluence not only persisted, but also flourished, even when the economic tides turned. On the flip side, meet the Stroh family, once a titan in the American brewery landscape. With a family fortune valued at an eye-popping $9 billion in today's terms during its 1980s zenith, the Strohs made fatal errors. Saddled with debt from ill-advised acquisitions and failing to catch trends like the light beer movement, their fortune dwindled. Their inability to diversify and adapt led to the sale of their brands, extinguishing a 149-year history in the brewery business. The lesson here is clear. Investment in longevity is often the stage that determines whether a family's wealth sustains or disintegrates. Make astute investments and relationships like the Rothschilds, and you've got a robust legacy. Misstep like the Strohs, and you're penning the final chapters of your family's financial story. The fourth phase, dubbed the inheritance challenge, amplifies the intricacies of sustaining family wealth. As the family tree expands, so does the labyrinth of wealth distribution, making each new generation a potential pitfall for asset dilution. It's here that sharp families lean into meticulous estate planning, employing trusts, legal safeguards, and financial consultation to prevent their fortunes from fragmenting due to inheritance taxes or internal feuds. A case in point is the Hyatt Hotel's founding family, the Pritzkers. They have deftly navigated this challenge by implementing efficient estate planning, distributing their wealth across multiple beneficiaries via trusts and other legal frameworks. This has effectively safeguarded their assets, so much so that their strategies have played a role in the success of figures like J.B. Pritzker, the current governor of Illinois. Contrast this with the saga of the Vanderbilts, whose name was once synonymous with American opulence. Despite accruing substantial wealth from shipping and railroad enterprises, they stumbled at this critical stage. A lack of prudent estate planning, coupled with extravagant spending, led to the disintegration of their fortune, leaving them with only a shadow of their initial wealth. The takeaway is clear: the inheritance challenge stage serves as more than just a fiscal juncture. It's a defining moment that determines a family's enduring presence in the exclusive world of old money. The fifth stage, and one that isn't talked about enough, is social responsibility and philanthropy, and marks a pivot in the old money journey. Having amassed a financial fortress and a set of family values, the focus typically shifts to making a meaningful impact on society. This philanthropic commitment is dual-natured. It's not just an ethical duty, but also a calculated strategy to sustain familial influence and social standing. One family that has excelled in this arena is the Mellon family. Their focus on philanthropy is both broad and targeted, spanning higher education, arts, and environmental conservation. Through foundations like the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation and the Richard King Mellon Foundation, they've funded everything from art conservation and higher education to economic development and social impact investments. These contributions serve a dual purpose: enriching society while perpetuating the family's favorable reputation. In stark contrast stands the Maxwell family, whose philanthropic facade disintegrated amidst financial scandals and sordid affairs. The patriarch, Robert Maxwell, faced numerous financial imbroglios that not only led to his empire's collapse, but also tarnished the family name. Additionally, Maxwell clearly failed in teaching social responsibility to his notorious daughter, Ghislaine Maxwell, whose horrific involvement in a global child exploitation ring locked her in jail, and the family's name in infamy. Therefore, philanthropy and social responsibility in the context of old money is neither an option nor a whimsical endeavor. It's a carefully crafted strategy integral to a family's enduring reputation and societal influence. While the Mellons showcase the transformative power of responsible philanthropy, the Maxwells serve as a grim reminder of the fallout from moral and financial failings. In the realm of old money, the sixth stage, wealth education, is of course a non-negotiable pillar. Here, the older generation assumes the mantle of financial educators, instilling not just the mechanics of money management, but also the values that have underpinned the family's enduring prosperity. And this instruction goes beyond pep talks at the family summer barbecue. It often encompasses formal training and mentorship, arming the younger generation with the tools required to manage the obligations that come with opulence. Take the Arnault family, the brains behind LVMH, the luxury goods conglomerate. The patriarch, currently the world's richest man, Bernard Arnault, holds regular meetings with his children to dissect business strategies and impart financial wisdom. It's no casual affair, but a concerted effort to educate the next generation on both the nuances and the gravitas of managing a colossal fortune. This focused approach has allowed them to maintain and even grow their luxurious $500 billion empire. The seventh stage and final stage, legacy and cultural impact, represents a pinnacle of achievement for families navigating the complexities of old money. Those who reach this zenith are etched into the annals of society and culture, moving beyond mere financial power to become influencers of history, social mores, and even academic discourse. For instance, the Kennedy family is synonymous with American political and cultural influence, but their impact is not restricted to Capitol Hill. From the arts to media and popular culture, they've transcended the traditional confines of politics to carve out a unique niche where Washington meets Hollywood. Through their philanthropic endeavors and political activism, they've moved beyond being just affluent individuals to become enduring cultural symbols, shaping the society they inhabit in a variety of ways. In contrast, consider the Astor family, who were once icons of New York's social elite and key players in American culture. Although by all accounts still a very comfortably wealthy and influential family in the United Kingdom, over time, their preoccupation with ostentation and social status contributed to their diminishing societal influence. Unlike enduring powerhouses like the Rockefellers, who continued to wield influence across various sectors, the Astors have often seen their larger role in Western high society recede from cultural leaders to historical anecdotes. Thus, reaching this seventh stage is more than just maintaining wealth. It's about shaping the zeitgeist, influencing social paradigms, and ultimately leaving an indelible mark on society. Although I think we've all dreamt at one point or another about being the member of a powerful dynasty, the ugly truth behind the business of ruling is that it's quite the headache most of us wouldn't want to endure. Diplomatic relations, espionage concerns, land disputes, royal ceremonies that take days to get fitted for. Indeed, being the matriarch or patriarch of a modern monarchy in a globalized world is more than just sunshine, rainbows, and Rolls Royces. Truthfully, above it all, it is an economic position that, as we'll see, can not only break a whole family, it can destroy an entire nation. So, you ask, how do they pull it all together? What are the exact economic frameworks that today's monarchies are using to not only stay in power, but in many cases, grow the influence and reach of their lands across the globe? In today's episode of Old Money Luxury, we'll explain that and much, much more as we describe the economics of royalty and how modern monarchies manage wealth. First, you'll have to excuse me for a little bit of bias toward my native land by starting off with this one. But hey, we have the most famous monarchy in the world, so why not begin on Albion? In the seemingly endless columns of the British royal family's financial portfolio, where £21.3 billion, or roughly $28 billion, barely earns a side glance from the crown's jewels, we can easily feel like paupers in a monopoly game where the royals hold all the deeds. Here we'll first find their largest cash cow, the Crown Estate, with its over £15 billion of assets, where you'll find yourself thumbing through a library of holdings in picturesque landscapes, bustling businesses, and gilded London properties. Indeed, the estate holds the rights to literally more than half of the UK's shoreline. This financial framework, rather untraditionally, dates back to 1760, when King George III decided that managing land was beneath a king and handed over control to the government for a salary. Trading terrain for a paycheck, he created a transparent model so bold that even the French, legendary lovers of enigma in finance, might have nodded in approval. However, across the Channel, the French's historically confusing economic entanglements involving public and personal spending set the stage for the French Revolution. Back then, the Germans, with their financial fiefdoms, preferred the laissez-faire approach, savoring financial autonomy with the zest of medieval guildmasters. Thus, even as we dive deeper into the economics of today's monarchies, we already see some subtle differences in wealth allocation and ruling styles from the past that have a direct influence on how countries are run in the 21st century. Moving forward, the other major holdings of the British monarchy are the duchies. The Duchy of Cornwall, valued at almost £1 billion, dates back to 1337, a trust fund for the heir apparent that mingles medieval grandeur with Wall Street savvy. Then there's the Duchy of Lancaster, older and perhaps wiser at around £750 million, serving the reigning monarch a buffet of urban properties and farmlands, its financial sustainability with a royal flourish. Now, across Europe, the monarchy's money bags vary as widely as the recipes in the Queen's kitchen. The British royal family's sovereign grant, an £86.3 million fiscal linchpin for 2021 to 2022, is not just about opening parliaments, it adds an estimated £2.5 billion flavour to the UK's economic pudding. Spain's monarchy, in contrast, follows a salaryman's budget. No grand estate sales here, just around €8 million delivered in monthly envelopes. It's the tortilla española to the UK's roast beef. Belgium's royals, living on a civil list that feeds them €11.6 million annually, operate with a modest footprint, without the cost of national delicacies. Meanwhile, the Dutch and Swedish monarchies seem to be consulting the same royal financial advisor, with state budgets keeping their palaces and privy purses well oiled. And then there's Monaco's Grimaldis. With an income drawn from casinos and hotels, they turn the glitz up to 11, fostering a glamorous haven for the wealthy and casting Monaco as the high roller at the European table. Thus, Europe is a world where the economic structures are as varied as royal titles, from the sparkling Monacan model to the steadfast British approach. Now, the economic tale of East Asia's monarchies reads like a lavish buffet, featuring everything from the understated elegance of Japan's chrysanthemum throne to the opulent extravagance of Brunei's sultan. In Japan, the emperor doesn't stash gold coins in the imperial coffers. Instead, he relies on the Japanese government's budget, which rang in at 16.3 billion yen in 2021. It might not be a treasure hoard, but it certainly keeps the imperial family well fed, from Wagyu beef to the ingredients for miso soup, courtesy of their 622-acre farm. However, things for the Japanese imperial family were not always so measured. Once considered among the world's wealthiest, Japan's monarchy underwent a fiscal makeover after World War II. A new constitution stripped the emperor of powers, leaving him simply as a symbol of the state. No more raining gold coins for His Majesty, but he can still greet foreign dignitaries and enjoy his family's produce. Hop over to Thailand and you'll find King Maha Vajiralongkorn, one of the world's wealthiest rulers, luxuriating atop an estimated net worth of $40 billion. The Crown Property Bureau, or the CPB, manages the royal finances, possessing holdings such as stakes in luxury hotels and Bangkok's upscale shopping centres. The CPB's financial dealings are complex and not easily understood, leading to recent protests demanding greater transparency. Next, we trepidatiously glance at the controversial wealth of Brunei's sultan, akin to wandering through his 1,788-room palace without a map. The sultan's fortune is intertwined with Brunei's vast oil and gas reserves. For example, the country ranks as the fourth richest nation globally by GDP per capita, where oil is indeed king. And no, we're not talking about the kind used in salad dressings. Similar to Thailand, Brunei's fiscal affairs are cloaked in secrecy, resembling a money blender where personal and national wealth are mixed. Industry skeptics may question Brunei's oil ambitions, but nobody can doubt the Sultan's passion for luxury. His garage alone, worth over $5 billion, boasts 600 Rolls-Royces, 450 Ferraris, and 380 Bentleys. And if you're ever invited to his palace, choose one of his 257 bathrooms wisely. Therefore, contrasting the finances of East Asian monarchies with those in Europe is akin to comparing an epic feast with an afternoon tea ceremony. While European kings and queens neatly file their publicly followed financial records next to pet corgis, their East Asian counterparts add a dash of mystery and opulence. With that said, let's travel over to the newest and most trending kids on the block, the Middle Eastern monarchies. Between here and Africa, different kingdoms have developed unique approaches to power and investment, deeply rooted in a tightly wound hierarchy and exponential economic growth. Thus, each approach is a mixture of modern and traditional influences. Saudi Arabia, where the desert is rich with oil, has accumulated immense wealth, most notably in the hands of the House of Saud. With a staggering net worth of around $1.4 trillion, the royal family's assets are, unsurprisingly, mainly in oil, which constitutes approximately 90% of export earnings, and perhaps more surprisingly, a whopping 42% of GDP. Additionally, the family also has significant real estate investments and stakes in major companies. Saudi Aramco, the world's most valuable company, with an estimated market capitalization of $2 trillion, stands as a central part of this wealth. But the Saudi royal family's interests extend beyond oil. They're involved in banking, real estate, and even military industries. The Public Investment Fund, or PF, Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund valued at $828 billion, plays a key role in these investments. This includes investments in various global sectors like technology, infrastructure, steel, and hotels. Despite this clear involvement in diverse investments, the exact details of the royal family's finances remain somewhat unclear, similar to some of their Asian counterparts. Furthermore, their spending on properties, cars, and luxuries seems intertwined with the nation's overall wealth in ways that are not always transparent. In the neighboring United Arab Emirates, the royal families in Abu Dhabi and Dubai are prominent players in the global investment field. To be more specific, an emirate is a political territory ruled by a monarch or an emir, often rich in natural resources like oil, and each emirate can have its own set of laws and economic policies. 7 emirates contribute to the country's economy, each with a unique blend of resources and financial strategies. These can range from oil and gas exploration to tourism and finance, allowing for diverse economic growth across the different territories. Additionally, their $828 billion sovereign wealth fund, ADIA, is a particular highlight, with interests in real estate and private equity. Now, Dubai's royal family has been instrumental in moving the city from an oil-based economy to an international hub, with investments in trade, tourism, real estate, and finance. Infrastructure investments and business-friendly policies have drawn global companies and entrepreneurs to the region. For instance, one of Dubai's innovative approaches has been the creation of special economic zones to lure foreign investment, along with free trade agreements. This has positioned Dubai as a key financial, business, and logistics center for the Middle East. Furthermore, the UAE's royal families have actively supported the economy through financial backing, infrastructure projects, and strategic trade policies. Dubai's Al Maktoum family, in particular, has been vital in transforming the city into a global business center, emphasizing growth in the economy, tourism, and industrial sectors. For example, Dubai's strategic location and modern infrastructure, combined with attractive business regulations, have brought in major global companies like General Motors and Shell, strengthening its role on the international stage. Now, in neighboring Qatar, natural gas constitutes around an astounding 60% of its GDP. Notably, the Qatari royal family made a significant move by bringing the FIFA World Cup to their country in 2022, leveraging the nation's vast oil and gas reserves for the necessary investments. This decision spurred growth in various sectors, resulting in an 8% expansion in the economy during the fourth quarter of the year the event was held. However, the economic benefits of hosting the World Cup were not without their difficulties. Allegations of bribery and corruption marred the process of securing the event. Additionally, the treatment of migrant workers, who were employed to build the required infrastructure, came under scrutiny. Reports of poor working conditions, low wages, and even deaths among the labor force cast a shadow over Qatar's successful bid. Thus, Middle Eastern monarchs combine investment acumen with authoritative control, managing economic growth with a by-any-means-necessary mentality. Contrast this with the European royal fare, and you often find less decadent state involvement. Moving to Africa, Morocco's King Mohammed VI operates with skill and precision in various sectors, including agriculture and banking. His holding company, SNI, has substantial holdings in key parts of Morocco's economy, making him a notable figure both in royal and entrepreneurial circles. But perhaps the most noteworthy economic outlier is Eswatini's King Mswati III, who actively oversees industries ranging from telecommunications to agriculture. His desire for wealth is strong, though some criticize it as excessive, particularly considering the poverty levels in his kingdom. In this small landlocked monarchy, where the economy is as diverse as King Mswati's wardrobe, Agriculture, forestry and mining form a trifecta of 13% of GDP. Meanwhile, manufacturing, particularly in the glamorous world of textiles and sugar-related processing, stylishly represents 37% of GDP. Not to be outdone, services, led by government, constitute a rather official 50% of GDP. Now, King Mswati III, who ascended to the throne in 1986, has amassed an estimated net worth of $100 million. If you're picturing the king lounging in lavish luxury, your imagination isn't far off. The monarchy's wealth, primarily derived from the country's resources, fuels the king's opulent lifestyle. Yet beneath the glitz and glamour, the cries for democracy in Eswatini have grown louder since June 2021. Indeed, the country's economy might feel like a high-stakes board game controlled by a small elite of royally connected individuals. While the monarch lives like royalty, many citizens reportedly face a life far from the fairy tale, living in poverty and driving unrest. Additionally, recent challenges in Eswatini have ranged from high inflation to a slowdown in South Africa, one of its primary trading partners. Insufficient government revenue seems to be a trend. Whether preserving the influence of the monarchy or building up basic infrastructure, the coffers are mysteriously light. This approach has stifled private sector development, leading to an economic plot twist worthy of a business novel. Thus, in the world of monarchies, the majestic facades, grand ceremonies and luxurious lifestyles often overshadow the complex economic structures and practices that underpin these historic institutions. Of course, we can first witness this in Europe's varied economic structures, from the British royal family's £21.3 billion portfolio and transparent crown estate model to Monaco's high-rolling casino-backed economy. Meanwhile, the economic story in East Asia varies from Japan's understated budget to Thailand's controversial $40 billion net worth monarch. In the Middle East, oil drives the staggering $1.4 trillion net worth of Saudi Arabia's royal family, while Dubai has innovatively shifted from oil to become an international business hub. Additionally, African monarchies, such as Morocco and Eswatini, reveal a mixture of entrepreneurial acumen and criticized excess. But what unites these varied economic tales is the delicate balance of maintaining traditions and adapting to a globalized world, where financial transparency, global investments, and strategic decisions influence not only the future of the dynasty, but also the entire nation's stability and growth. It's a game of thrones where economics, power, and national identity are inextricably intertwined. So you're intrigued by offshore banking, and who wouldn't be? The idea of tucking your money away in some exotic, far-flung locale has a certain allure. However, as the kids say online these days, you have questions. At this point in the conversation, we'll usually hear something like, "Is this all above board, or am I diving into a murky underworld of financial skullduggery?" Well, my friend, quite naturally that depends on your personal outlook. Done properly, offshore banking is as legitimate as having an account down the street. Done improperly, it's the playground of sociopaths who could make Bond villains look like Harry Potter. However, for everyday people like you and me, the most important thing is to not be scared away from offshore banking as a concept, for it is a crucial aspect of financial literacy in the 21st century. In today's video, we'll explain it all, the good, the bad, and the luxury of offshore banking, step by step, and with a historical lens, so you get the full picture. Sounds good? All right, let's begin with the very fundamentals, for the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Our breakdown begins in the late 19th century, as financial markets matured and international trade expanded, and the concept of banking began to take on new dimensions. Traditionally, banking meant simply the business of holding money for customers, providing loans, credit, and payment services, and offering various investment opportunities. Therefore, in some ways, before the emergence of offshore banking, traditional banking was pretty straightforward, especially for the average person. They thought of it simply as a secure place where they could store their money, get a loan if they needed one, or invest in basic opportunities like savings accounts or bonds. You could walk into a local bank branch, talk to the staff, and conduct your business mainly within the boundaries of your home country. However, as nations and economies of scale interacted more closely, a specialized form of banking emerged, our lovely friend offshore banking that we're discussing today. In this model, all the typical activities of a bank are conducted in a foreign jurisdiction, adding layers of shrewd complexity and hidden opportunity. In simple terms, bankers, financiers, and even countries realized that they could attract even more money by offering specialized services in foreign locations. For example, if a bank in Switzerland offered better privacy laws or tax benefits than your home country, you might decide to put your money there instead. It became a competitive edge, a way to lure in clients who were looking for more than just the basics, or perhaps murkier ways to stack their coin away from the prying eyes of governmental regulation. As we transitioned into the early 20th century, offshore banking crystallized into a distinctive model. As we've said, unlike conventional domestic banking, the first iron law of offshore banking is that it must occur in a jurisdiction other than the customer's home country. Thus, it can offer a suite of benefits not typically available or even legal in domestic settings, such as tax advantages, increased privacy, and enhanced asset protection. Naturally, the allure of these benefits made offshore banking an attractive option for individuals and corporations looking for a less public and heavily scrutinized place to park their money. Then, the 1920s and 30s saw the burgeoning of the first offshore financial centers, as geopolitical and economic conditions shifted in favor of these specialized banking havens. Switzerland, known for its neutrality and robust financial regulations, became the first popular choice. Then Luxembourg, with its focus on commercial secrecy and strong banking laws, as well as its unique position as technically being part of the EU's open market, was another. The Channel Islands, located between England and France, also joined the ranks of early offshore centers, offering legal and regulatory frameworks conducive to offshore financial activities. At this point, you might be wondering if your average everyday citizen was aware of these developments. In other words, was the average Joe or Jane able to take advantage of this growing offshore market to save on their taxes, hide their cash in a secure location, and so on? Well, to be honest, this was a period when the general public was not particularly hip to these developments. Offshore banking was mainly a subject discussed in the boardrooms of large corporations and among the wealthiest of individuals. Of course, governments were aware, but they were also grappling with the complexities and benefits these financial arrangements offered to their own economies in a rapidly industrializing 20th century. And, to be clear, offshore banking means banking anywhere in the world that is not within your home country. In other words, this phenomenon is, and was, not limited to Western or developed nations. Thus, as the 20th century progressed, offshore banking evolved from a fledgling concept for the ultra-rich and ultra-connected into a complex financial ecosystem, populated by a variety of jurisdictions, not just in the West, but including the Caribbean, Asia, and even the Middle East, as power player countries began to establish themselves as part of this international network. And yet, even as it carved out its prominent role, questions loomed. Scandals, leaks, and increasing scrutiny from governments pointed to another chapter in the story of offshore banking, with twists and turns that no one could fully anticipate. As the clock ticked into the 1960s, offshore banking was indeed no longer just the domain of wealthy individuals and multinational corporations. The role of the state began to emerge as a topic of interest and scrutiny. In this era, governments began to take an interest because of the growing impact of offshore banking on global finance, as well as the potential for political and diplomatic maneuvering. States saw these offshore accounts as tools that could be discreetly utilized for certain sensitive transactions, away from the watchful gaze of the public and other nations. Without a doubt, the offshore platforms offered an intriguing mix of secrecy and financial advantage that governments found hard to completely ignore. And although they might not like to admit it, while governments themselves generally did not engage in offshore banking in the way private entities did, they were sticking their hands into the offshore pie as well. For certain specialized transactions, or to manage resources away from the public eye, state entities like the CIA during World War II and the Cold War did indeed open and operate offshore accounts. These accounts allowed them to perform activities that might be diplomatically or politically sensitive, and by 1970, the landscape of offshore banking hubs had taken shape, providing a clearer picture of which jurisdictions were the most significant players. Hot on Europe's heels were newer entrants like the Cayman Islands, where fewer regulations and a more relaxed tax environment attracted a flurry of offshore activity. Singapore also emerged as a key player, offering a blend of robust legal protections and strategic location that appealed to a diverse clientele. These jurisdictions were more than just repositories of wealth. They had become intricate cogs in the machinery of global finance, each with its unique blend of services, legal frameworks, and regulatory nuances. The year 1975 saw the growing prominence of institutions that had become synonymous with offshore banking. Names like UBS and Credit Suisse were not just popular, they were pillars of the offshore financial community. Thus, Swiss banks such as these had by then mastered the art of attracting foreign capital while providing a diverse range of services from investment opportunities to asset protection. HSBC, with its origins in the British colony of Hong Kong and a growing global footprint, also joined the ranks of these elite institutions. Therefore, this period of the 1960s and 70s was one where the lines between private enterprise and government blurred somewhat in the realm of offshore banking. States themselves began spreading fingerprints in various offshore transactions, while the offshore hubs themselves had emerged as the go-to headquarters of the secretive ultra-rich. This complex interplay between private and state interest against the backdrop of evolving international laws and norms brought offshore banking into a new suspicious light. Thus, as the decade came to a close, unanswered questions began to linger. What undisclosed alliances and covert transactions remained hidden, waiting for the perfect moment to surface and shake the foundations of this complex financial empire? Around the start of the 1980s, the relationship between wealth and offshore banking entered a new, more intricate phase. By this time, engaging in some form of offshore banking had become almost a rite of passage for the well-heeled. The motivations were manifold. Asset protection, tax benefits, and financial privacy stood at the forefront. Wealthy individuals saw the merit in diversifying their assets across jurisdictions, sheltering them from the unpredictable swings of local politics or economies. Indeed, their financial landscapes were often as international as their lifestyles, and offshore banking fit snugly into this global panorama. To put this into perspective, let's say you're a well-heeled denizen of the international set in the year 1985, ready to offshore your millions. Your first stop is usually a meeting with financial advisors or specialized offshore consultants. These professionals won't just open doors for you. They'll provide you bespoke roadmaps to navigate the complex terrain of global finance. Your negotiations with your newfound team of advisors generally will begin with discussions about financial goals, risk tolerance, and the need for asset protection. This dialogue will help with your strategy, whether it's setting up a simple offshore savings account or a complex network of international trusts and companies. After all your dollar's ducks are in a row, you'll wait a few years, knowing your money is safe in the world's top offshore havens, until the year 1990, when your team comes with an even better proposition. Let's not just hide your money, let's have your money make you even more money. You see, by the top of the 90s, the value proposition of offshore banking had indeed crystallized into something more than just a protective measure. It was increasingly seen as a vehicle for wealth creation, and advisors became the linchpins in this transformation. Their role was not merely consultative, but deeply involved in the mechanics of amplifying wealth. They assisted their clients in optimizing tax liabilities, diversifying assets to minimize risks, and sniffing out lucrative global investment opportunities. These services went beyond traditional banking. They were more like a blend of financial alchemy and global strategy, tailored to enrich the portfolios of the wealthy. Fast forward to 1995, and people couldn't help but notice that governments often seemed to turn a blind eye to the proliferation of offshore accounts. The reasons for this apparent indifference were as layered as the offshore accounts themselves. Navigating the spider web of international law was no small feat, and prosecuting offshore financial activities could be a quagmire. Additionally, the infusion of foreign capital into their financial systems was generally seen as beneficial by the jurisdictions that hosted these offshore accounts. However, a more subtle reason lay in the influence wielded by powerful individuals who made extensive use of these murky offshore services. Their clout by then often extended into the corridors of political power, further complicating any governmental efforts to clamp down on the offshore world. Yet, Even while its practices became normalized, rumors started to swirl of a forthcoming international agreement that could change the face of offshore banking forever. As the 20th century drew to a close, it became increasingly clear that the offshore world was on the brink of a transformation. Something monumental lurked just over the horizon, ready to pull back the curtain and reveal a game-changing truth. The turn of the millennium signaled another change in the offshore banking landscape. Previously considered the preserve of the rich, the year 2000 saw the barriers to entry slowly eroding, allowing middle-income individuals to ponder their options. However, while offshore accounts had become more accessible, they were not necessarily a wise choice for everyone. For those without substantial assets, the allure of offshore benefits might not outweigh the costs. Transaction fees, legal charges, and maintenance costs could quickly add up, and without a sizable asset base, the advantages of tax breaks or asset protection could be negligible. Thus, for the average individual, the decision to go offshore was often fraught with financial caveats. By the mid-2010s, conversations around the future of offshore banking started to take center stage. Regulatory landscapes were shifting, spurred by a growing demand for transparency in international finance. Governments, financial institutions, and international bodies were increasingly focused on legitimizing the offshore industry, as new compliance measures started to clip the wings of schemes aimed at lowering tax burdens. So as we stand today, we are witnessing a transformation in offshore banking, a metamorphosis driven by necessity, regulation, and changing public perception. The once elite financial tool is becoming democratized, yet also facing existential questions around its purpose and ethics. For the middle-income individual, the evolving landscape offers cautionary notes. Offshore banking is becoming accessible, but it demands a heightened sense of responsibility and awareness. For the industry at large, the future is an unfolding chapter, one being rewritten to harmonize with the government-mandated codes of financial transparency. If you've clicked on this, chances are you've already secretly admitted to yourself that you're intrigued by tax havens. Those clandestine financial playgrounds of the ultra-rich, where taxation takes a back seat and confidentiality reigns supreme. Forget loopholes. These country-sized secret safe-houses are the crown jewels in the treasure map of generational wealth. And in these fiscal utopias, old money doesn't just find a sanctuary, it throws a lavish, never-ending party, safe from the taxing grasp of governments, the annoying buzz of creditors, and the unpredictable whims of political drama. In today's episode of Old Money Luxury, we'll lift the velvet rope and give you a backstage pass to the insane history of tax havens, the ultimate financial soiree, where tax codes are more like suggestions, and bank vaults boast a guest list that would make the Oscars gold would envy. Starting off, let's get one thing clear about tax havens. Contrary to popular belief, they are a relatively modern invention. In fact, in the grand arc of the history of making filthy lucre, they're more like the new kids on the financial block, strutting onto the scene around the turn of the 20th century. Knowing that, you might wonder why they were such late bloomers. Well, you see, income taxes were the party crashers that showed up in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And let's just say they weren't the life of the party for people who, as one reporter said of William Randolph Hearst, build the type of houses God would have built if he had the money. Indeed, before income taxes, your money had nowhere to hide, but also no reason to. But when governments decided to become more, shall we say, involved in people's finances, tax havens popped open like secret hatch doors for the elite, ready to give their cash the escape route it never knew it needed. In the beginning, Switzerland was the trailblazer, the OG godfather of this financial underworld. And why Switzerland? In a word, neutrality. See, unlike countries embroiled in wars or economic woes, Switzerland played it cool, focusing on becoming a fiscal paradise. Taking cues from American states like New Jersey and Delaware, known for their business-friendly local tax regimes, Swiss cantons like Zug dialed down regulations, making them as irresistible as flames to a moth. Specifically, the zenith was a trifecta of tax efficiency, the Zurich-Zug-Liechtenstein axis, the Avengers of finance, if you will. Furthermore, the Swiss Banking Act of 1934 elevated this promise to a creed, offering unprecedented confidentiality that turned Swiss banks into the Fort Knox of global capital. And yet, Switzerland wasn't the only belle at the ball. Enter Monaco, the small but sparkling gem on the Riviera. To compete, they had to dazzle. Zero income tax, jaw-dropping marinas, and casinos so extravagant they'd make modern Las Vegas seem like a church bingo night. Indeed, Monaco wasn't just offering a tax haven, it was peddling a lifestyle, a venue where high society and secretive finances danced a graceful pas de deux. Next, the Caribbean jumped into the tax haven Grand Prix. Strategically speaking, with Switzerland offering precision and Monaco offering glam, the Caribbean chose to play the disruptor card. They were the tech startups to Switzerland's established enterprise, shell corporations, asset protection trusts, you name it. Bermuda and the Bahamas were the star pupils in this Caribbean masterclass, learning from both their European and American counterparts, but adding their unique flair. They realized that low taxes alone wouldn't cut it, and so they unrolled a wide range of financial services, swathed in a level of secrecy that could even make a spy novelist pause. They burst onto the scene not just as copycats, but as innovators, and they timed it perfectly, stepping into the ring when post-war prosperity left people and corporations searching for exotic destinations to stash their newfound wealth. As the 1960s rolled in, we began a heady era of peace, love, and a Cayman Islands financial landscape that rocked the high seas. What separated this paradise from the Caribbean mainstays like Bermuda and the Bahamas was the banks and trust companies' regulation law. It wasn't just a warm welcome, it was a rallying cry for unbridled financial secrecy. You see, unlike Bermuda, the insurance haven, and the Bahamas with its trust services, the Caymans angled for hedge fund preeminence. Think of it as adding a rare scotch to a bar already filled with fine wines. Fast forward to 2008, and the Caymans had graduated from debutante to diva, solidifying its rank as the world's fourth largest financial center. From fledgling upstart to financial A-lister, it was a star turn that left everyone gawking. And then there's Luxembourg, Europe's underestimated financial virtuoso. Picture minimal tax rates and a VAT that practically rolls out the red carpet. But Luxembourg's real secret weapon came in the form of European Union membership. This meant it wasn't merely a sanctuary, it was an EU business express lane. This makes the tiny nation not just a refuge, but a gateway to the entire European market, placing it in a league of its own in the competitive world of tax havens. However, when we're talking global tax havens, the conversation isn't complete without a nod to the East. Europe may have its private indulgences, and the Caribbean its paradisiacal lack of oversight, but Asia is where the financial innovation keeps on ticking. Let's start with Hong Kong, that British colonial jewel that evolved into an Asian financial colossus. Thanks to its unique geopolitical status, Hong Kong has the latitude to craft a tax landscape dreams are made of. Picture this. No income or capital gains taxes, all bundled neatly within the secure framework of British legal standards. It's like lounging in a five-star resort that just so happens to have a fortress-grade security system. But what really sets Hong Kong apart is its free port status. It's not just a page in the playbook, it's the entire game plan. In layman's terms, a free port is a duty-free zone where high-net-worth individuals can store valuable assets like art, antiques, and even gold bars without the burden of import taxes or tariffs. So it's not merely about stashing cash, it's about preserving and even growing wealth in a setting that's as tax-friendly as it gets. In Hong Kong's free port, your financial ambitions aren't just achievable, they're practically a given. Speaking of free ports, Singapore is naturally a rising star in the tax haven galaxy that's worthy of your attention. While Hong Kong offers a bustling free port, Singapore's free port access also comes with an added layer of geopolitical stability that's increasingly hard to ignore. Unlike Hong Kong, which has faced its share of political turbulence, Singapore remains a recent beacon of stability. This makes it not just a place to discreetly hold on to your riches, but a fortress where your wealth can grow unencumbered. Now, as the 1980s came in, we entered a decade when neon leg warmers defined fashion trends, and secluded financial havens started to feel the pinch of government oversight. Monaco and Switzerland, the aforementioned citadels of banking discretion, found themselves under the scrutinizing gaze of the neighboring European Union. Though they resisted, the inevitable happened. To keep trade with the EU flowing smoothly, Monaco and Switzerland had to abandon their opaque financial practices for greater transparency, altering the landscape of offshore financing irrevocably. In parallel, the United States wasn't merely lounging around, it was applying new rules to Caribbean tax shelters. Enacted in 1984, the Caribbean Basin Economic Recovery Act was a dual-pronged approach. It provided tax benefits for companies while simultaneously imposing new obligations for information exchange. A novel chapter in financial clarity had dawned, sanctioned by Uncle Sam himself. And when the 90s came around, controversies and financial blunders started to creep further into the sector. Take, for example, the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, or BCCI. Headquartered in Luxembourg, BCCI became synonymous with bad practices, including money laundering and drug trafficking, tarnishing the reputation of financial havens. Come 1998, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, better known as the OECD, released a groundbreaking report. It pinpointed 35 tax havens needing serious reforms to evade global blacklisting. This set off an intricate ballet of self-regulation and external pressure in the domain of offshore finance. Furthermore, the new millennium saw Dubai's rise not merely as a low-tax location, but as an unparalleled spectacle. Zero income and capital gains taxes were just the starting points. Dubai also offered an environment brimming with luxury and opportunity. But Dubai's rise as a financial Shangri-La wasn't some fluke. It was a chess move in the Middle East's grand strategy to diversify away from oil dependency. And the UAE's not going it alone. You've got Qatar's Investment Promotion Agency and Bahrain's Economic Development Board also dangling financial carrots to attract global businesses. The region is practically assembling a Manchester City-level lineup of tax-friendly hotspots. But let's now jet set to Puerto Rico, the dark horse in the tax haven Kentucky Derby. Who could have predicted that the Puerto Rico Economic Development Act of 2006 would turn this U.S. territory into a fiscal paradise? Indeed, Americans could now find tax nirvana without even needing a passport. It was like having a duty-free shop in your own backyard. And why did Uncle Sam give it the green light? Perhaps as a unique experiment to spur local economies while also providing a domestic answer to overseas tax hoarding. It's like a Buy American campaign, but for tax shelters. And then, cue the dramatic music. The rise of cryptocurrencies transformed Puerto Rico from an intriguing subplot into a central character in the financial narrative. Bitcoin and its digital brethren made old-school havens look like rotary dials next to iPhones. The new wave of influencers, the crypto nouveau riche, are buying up Puerto Rican real estate like kids in a candy store. Names like Logan Paul and child actor turned crypto billionaire Brock Pierce, among others, are leading the parade. Thus, traditional tax shelters are beginning to realize that it's time for a facelift, or risk becoming the 8 track tapes of financial planning. And so, here we are, a decade that so far sucked for basically everybody, even the tax havens being put under the microscope, as if they were specimens in a petri dish of international scrutiny. And this shift toward transparency isn't just a buzzword, it's become the North Star of global financial policies. But who are the navigators steering this ship? The OECD and the G20, elite clubs for countries focused on economic collaboration. These organizations aren't just tweaking the rules with their base erosion and profit shifting, or BEPS initiative, they're taking a red pen to the playbook and giving offshore finance a complete makeover. Then enter Stage Right, CRS and CBCR, the dynamic duo of tax legislation. Far from cryptic boy band names or failed internet startups, these acronyms are game changers. CRS is the conductor of a financial orchestra, coordinating account details across international borders as if it were directing a harmonious symphony of fiscal notes. Meanwhile, CBCR is the Sherlock Holmes of accounting, sifting through financial data like a detective on the hunt for hidden treasure. Thus, the race toward compliance has hit a pace even Usain Bolt would respect. However, every party has its pooper, and COVID-19 certainly fits the bill. The virus crashed the scene like a bull in an economic china shop, turning the once glitzy realm of wealth management into a game of financial survivor. Forget about cruising in a Lamborghini. These days, you want to be behind the wheel of an all-terrain vehicle fitted with airbags and an emergency food stash. And while we're shaking things up, a chorus is rising among Western nations for a global tax. It's like adding a minimum bet to a lifelong poker table of the ultra-rich, ensuring that multinational corporations fork out their fair share, regardless of their glamorous locale. Indeed, it's a disruption that poses a to-be or not-to-be dilemma for many tax havens. So, as we zip through this era of fiscal gymnastics, tax havens find themselves in a high-stakes episode of Who Wants to Stay a Billionaire? Except the lifelines are vanishing and the questions are getting trickier. The narrative is shifting. Adapt or be sidelined, and how this high-stakes drama plays out, only time will tell.